liberty in America is under assault. We no longer live in a reality that includes property rights. We're no longer the kings of our own castle. We no longer enjoy the true benefits of capitalism. Instead, we're negotiating our rights with our own government. This isn't how our country was founded. These aren't the ideas of our founders. It's time to seize back our country. This is the Liberty Hour, where these important issues will be discussed for the sake of America's future. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Constitution in the other, here's your host, Sean Thompson.
This is the Liberty Hour podcast, where I just wrapped up with one Bruce Wolf. And I'll tell you what, kid, I do have fun. I really do. I enjoy it very much. He interrupts the shit out of me. My word, I can't get a word in edgewise. But that's why it's good to have a podcast. Because I work at focusing on what we can get to fill in a segment, and it turns in we get to about 7 different things. And at the end of it, I'm not sure what we covered, but I'm pretty sure we didn't cover what I wanted to cover. So here on the podcast, it's just me, baby. And if you care to participate, you can still call in at 312-642-5600. Now, this probably isn't going to be too long because I do have so many things going on. I will be leaving Thursday afternoon for Florida, where I will be for 6 days. So I won't be doing the podcast next Tuesday. And my show from Sunday will actually be an edited version of me and Bruce. I don't know what it is yet because I don't do that. But a couple things I wanted to get to today, because I think that one thing translates through when I try to do radio is I try to do it regardless of party, right? Because I think both parties are culpable for the situation we're in. And I think both parties have learned exactly how to profit from the failures that they've created. Now, one of the ways in which they do this is by stampeding not just the useful idiot, but by building up fear among those who are not useful idiots. But once you can build that fear, you can control the citizen, the body politic. Because even if it's one outstanding person who says, I see that that's a scam and I don't buy it for a minute, and you should have been using the money you've already been charging us for the infrastructure to keep the infrastructure, or whatever the case may be. Instead of that, they realize that people close to that one person will catch fear, because fear is contagious and it's stupefying. And once you're afraid, you just want to put it out. You want to make the fear stop. And you're willing to give away money. You're willing to give away freedom. You're willing to give away anything you have to if you think it will stop at the magic of someone else taking your problems. So I was at home in Chicago, Illinois, or outside of Chicago, but in Illinois, and I have noticed how we have been inundated. And I believe it was one of the last podcasts where I had said to you, these organizations, these super PACs, these black money, dark money laundering scheme institutions that are avoid from all taxation, they're primarily owned and operated by politicians. Either those that were politicians, those that want to be, or the king makers that are involved in them. And in some cases, they're directly owned by when we have a trust fund baby like J.B. Pritzker, they're owned by his family. They're a tax shill, a front for an agenda. And that's what's happening in Illinois, as you're seeing all of a sudden after the election these commercials. So I pulled one, and I want you to hear it.
If Illinois continues to underfund our roads, more bridges will fail. More cars will crash, and more people will die.
I mean, it's almost
After
unbelievable.
years of neglect, Illinois infrastructure is failing at an alarming rate. Call your legislator. Tell them to invest in our safety. Lives are at stake.
Now, instead of focusing on why they're failing, is the fact that they have been charging us through various taxations, various licensing. And if you think it's bad when you're a regular citizen in your car, try being a trucker. And the money that is extorted, yes, it is extorted from those of us who use these roads. And it's a triple layer, it's a quadruple layer, it's a fee after fee. No matter what they call it, it is still an operating expense extortion tool to steal money from the people who participate in it. Now, the guise in which they do that, and the reason they were able to pass that, is because they were to use said money and maintain said infrastructure. But they didn't. They stole the money. They took it, they misappropriated, they enriched their friends, their campaign contributors, and they cheated us. And what is the repercussion? They're going to take more from you, and you're going to give it away because they have managed to harness the fear. And that's what this is. This sounds to me like an ad for Jaws 38. This is Predator 14. This is a commercial of fear, to invoke a feeling where you are willing to not only, and here's the other thing they learned. You don't have to be willing to give up your money. You just have to be willing to cheer while they take the money from somebody you hate, or somebody you don't know, or somebody you think you hate because they have more than you. I'm telling you, and this is what I ask when we have the opportunity to interview, when it's Bruce and myself and we interview economists. Where do you see the trajectory of our nation? And it is going right in the gutter because this is working. This ad is working. And then if you think it doesn't work, don't worry. If you pretend to be a conservative Republican, we got one for you too.
All Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal migration. It strains public resources.
Now, I hate generalities, and I don't mean to be hard on the guy, but all Americans are hurt? I don't think so. All Americans are not hurt. See, the problem with immigration from the perspective of the Republican is that it creates a non-unionized, uncontrollable competition to organized, extorted, communist American labor called unions. That's the problem with immigration. It doesn't steal jobs. You already have eliminated jobs because you have been willing to capitulate to labor extortion rackets called unions. That's who eliminates jobs. And then they sell them back to you, whether it be for your vote or your dues or for whatever agenda they have. So this idea that just pay attention to the overarching fear-mongering in this advertisement. Now, there are some valid points about drugs that come across the border. I agree with him, and I agree we need a secured border. But what they're not going to fix, and what they're never going to fix, is a fair, streamlined, equitable path to citizenship. Because Donald Trump made this speech from the Oval Office after he made the idiotic comment hours ago, 48 hours ago, that America is full, which is stupid on so many levels it's not even worth going over. If you can't figure that out, odds are you're not listening to this podcast. But I want you to see the similarities in the fear-mongering between the obviously corrupt, fraud Democrat in Pritzker and the political agenda-driven profiteer in Donald Trump.
And drives down jobs and wages. Among those hardest hit are African Americans and Hispanic Americans.
But you go out week after week and tell me how those job numbers have never been better. You do that week after week. I hear you come out and embrace the economic numbers you once correctly made fun of. You just did it a week ago, and you didn't tell people that the labor force shrank by 224,000. Just shrank from various reasons, whether the jobs went out of business, the people retired, or they were eliminated. And then you only counted the winners, right? And that's how you get to your cooked numbers. Moreover, those people who come over, they don't eliminate jobs, they fill jobs. They deliver value. And that's the one thing that Donald Trump and the Keynesian Republicans don't want you to focus on. They want you to believe that you're losing something. So they're going to stoke the fear.
Southern border is a pipeline for vast quantities of illegal drugs, including meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. Every week, 300 of our citizens are killed by heroin alone.
Now, this is a chicken and egg argument because I agree with I agree with those numbers he gave you. That is a chicken and an egg argument to me. Sure, they're coming here through the border, but are they coming here and then are they waving, buy me, or I'll kill you? Or are they coming here to supply a desired need. So rather than attack the way a Gestapo attacks the supply, why don't you attack the demand? Because you can't. Because you can't regulate humanity. And it's an unfortunate thing, and it's a terrible choice. I'm a father, and my daughter will make terrible choices, my daughters. And I hope that I have ingrained them with enough to make good choices. But ultimately, to attack the supply without confronting the demand makes you a useful, willful idiot. Sorry, it just does.
90% of which floods across from our southern border.
Everyone's a victim.
More Americans will die from drugs this year than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. In the last 2 years, ICE officers made 266,000 arrests of aliens with criminal records, including those charged or convicted of 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 violent killings.
Now, he's absolutely right. There should be a law in place. There should be a system in place. There should be a safety net in place that stops that. There's no question about it. But there should also be a system in place that rewards the good citizens from around the world that want to come here because they want to participate in freedom. And that's how America was supposed to be. But what he cannot tell you is we can't do it anymore because we have implemented a welfare system in this country that is at full capacity. The welfare system is already broken, and it's already hobbling along, and it's already bankrupt. It can't take any more. And the problem isn't the immigrant that comes here. It's the American citizen that demands those things. It's you. You're the problem with immigration. If you demand the social safety net and welfare in America and communism in America, you pretend is an entitlement. Sorry. Once again, it's just the way it is.
Over the years, thousands of Americans have been brutally killed by those who illegally entered our country, and thousands more lives will be lost if we don't act right now.
Fear.
This is
Same
a
fear.
Humanitarian crisis, a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul. Last month, 20,000 migrant children were illegally brought into the United States, a dramatic increase. These children are used as human pawns by vicious coyotes and ruthless gangs. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted on the dangerous trek up through Mexico. Women and children are the biggest victims, by far, of our broken system.
So then create a system that prevents that. It's really quite simple. Create a system that prevents that. But you're lying about what you need. You need that fear. They need it stoked. Because imagine being an Illinoisan and listening to this. So wait a minute. I got one commercial that tells me if I don't give you my money, my bridge is going to collapse and I'm going to get killed or my kid will get killed. I got another commercial that comes in. Wait a minute. If I don't agree with you and fund the Republicans, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. My kid's going to get hooked on drugs and possibly raped on the way over. The immigrant. I have to, here, take it all. Take it all. And it's the same formula put to different parties. It's the same formula meant to control and corral you. There's a difference between changing your mind and coercing you. There's a difference. And this is coercion. This isn't persuasion. This is coercion. I mean, it works, though. The problem is it works. And what nobody is talking about is it works on a mass level to protect very specific interests. It is the recipe for corporatism. Now, it also works in the financial market. Oh, but it does. It works, and that's where the pay-to-play system is really mature in the economic angle of these two fear agenda platforms, fear-driven formulas that always work. But when it works through the economics, it's funny, the American citizen chants against himself. The American citizen, when you present it and you wrap corporate fraud in a flag, actually chants to have a value or to have a freedom tax implemented on consumption. And they cheer for very, very bad policies. And this happened. This was on Bloomberg. It caught my attention, and I want you to hear it.
Give us some context. I mean, this comes at a time when Boeing could certainly use all the help that it can get. But in terms of these grievances against Airbus...
I hit a clip that if I hit it, I'm going to have to hit another one and make you wait. So hold on 1 second, please.
Give us some context. I mean, this comes at a time when Boeing could certainly use all the help that it can get. But in terms of these grievances against Airbus and the EU subsidies, it actually goes back a number of years.
It does, Heidi, and this is breaking news on your Bloomberg terminal. The U.S. has proposed some $11 billion worth of duty, tariff countermeasures that would hit a whole line of European products, from French Roquefort to British Stilton cheese to the big one is Airbus aircraft. This is in response to what the U.S. says have been EU subsidies for Airbus, including launch subsidies to get some of their biggest and newest and best planes, like the long-distance A350, off the ground. Now, the WTO is supposed to come out in summer with an arbitration ruling on exactly what the amount of these subsidies might be, and the U.S. is planning to sort of trim their list to fit that. In the meantime, there are talks that the U.S. is hoping to conclude to sort of settle here. But if not, this is a clear warning shot that the U.S. stands ready to go with tariffs on Airbus equipment. And there's no question, Heidi, in a very delicate moment for Boeing all around the world, this is a move that could absolutely help the U.S.'s largest plane maker.
Now, largest plane maker that just was caught in a scandal of frauding a system that ended in the results of hundreds of deaths in its stabilization lie that it created on its new plane that it sold all around the world. And instead of paying the repercussions of that fraud, that, by the way, how did it get through our own FCC or FEC or whatever bureaucracy they have that regulates air travel? How did it get through the government body that was supposed to make sure that these systems didn't fail? It just seemed to breeze through it. So it breezes through whatever bureaucracy they put in charge that is supposed to prevent this kind of disaster. Now, it probably does that because it pays off the lobbyists and pays off the different politicians, you know, like the people who try to get their kids in college. Kind of the same thing, only this has to do, they get a pass because they employ people. And not only do they get a pass so that this disaster can happen, but when it does, don't you worry. We're going to tariff your competition so you don't feel the repercussions. Do you see the scam? Can you follow the ball? Because what's happening here is that the Trump administration is misusing government power to benefit a special interest that it needs, that it has a vested interest in its success. This isn't American policy. This isn't about Americans. This isn't about you and protecting you and the citizens. This is about protecting scumbags who have paid off government for this kind of protection. And this went off like a fart in a show without a peep. No one says a word. Everyone pretends it's the other guy. Are you kidding me? This should be an outrage on every business channel. And I don't even see it on the ones that people say hate Trump. It's nowhere to be heard. I'm just some guy with a podcast, thankfully, on a conservative radio station that gave me the opportunity. But this is the biggest news from yesterday. But people in America have learned to love the lie if it comes from a conservative who claims to be a capitalist. That's the other thing. This isn't capitalism. Boeing should have went out of freaking business years ago for this kind of chicanery. And yet all it has to do is open. Hey, Boeing moved its corporate headquarters to Chicago. It's a great company. It's a great company. Scumbags, one and all, that knows it can pimp out politicians to protect its profit margin. These are the same ones that sell who knows how many weapons and weapon systems to keep the war going. I know that they hate it when a war goes for 16 years. I hate it. It's terrible. How's our stock doing? Anybody got stock? By the way, how many apparatchiks to politicians have stock in Boeing? This is the definition of insider trading. It's outrageous. I'm sorry. I saw this at 4 a.m. on my way here because I like to watch TV when I drive. Sorry, I do. I watch TV when I drive, and I couldn't believe it. I said, how could this not? This went off 24 or 48 hours ago, 24 hours, 36 hours ago. Are you kidding me? This is the kind of things you bring presidents up on charges for. Not nonsense, but the Democrats can't because that's the Democrat platform. This is the exact kind of corporate protection and backdoor nationalization of companies that the Democrats love because it's socialism. And it's wrapped in a flag, just like the real thing. And the argument against it is nil, none, net. They don't care because it's Boeing. It's an American company. Make America great again. This doesn't make America great again. This makes America a lie. This makes America weak. Just like your immigration policy makes people weak. Because for everyone that can deliver value, for everyone that isn't on welfare, doesn't want to be on welfare, for everyone that can be a producer, you take out of existence and you cannot calculate it. You can't fathom it. The bad policies destroy the good people, always and forever. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be eradicated, at least from one party. But when you have both parties practicing terrible, terrible policies, it's over. Game over. Towel in. And for all you sports guys, you have to reject this. I'm sorry. I'm a big, not a socialist, Democrat, fraud, commie, pretending to be a Democrat. I hate them. I can't believe it that America's gotten here. But when you think about how it gets here, it's because the conservatives are this. This is a conservative. This is the guy you tell me is the conservative. This is important. This is something to pay attention on. This is truly important. All right, I see you got these Trump clips. I don't know if I sent them or you did.
Anything that goes wrong, they blame Russia. Russia did it. They have no idea.
Well, it also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds.
They don't even know it's Russia. Who knows?
Personally, it could be Russia. I don't really think it is, but who knows? I don't know either. They don't know, and I don't know.
You know what I will say? This is the greatest voter rally cry to ever happen. And this is how you can ignore the bad Trump policies, Trumponomics, Obamanomics, and Bushonomics, which are all the same thing. Because they've got us dancing to their song. And all they have to do is wrap it in some sort of a false emergency, a false patriotism, a false hurry up or you're going to lose your way of life. And you know something? He's right about this. They went after him, but I have to say, I think it is the greatest campaign money-raising scheme known to man. That's why when it comes to this Mueller report, it's never going to be really released. It's never going to be released to anybody's satisfaction. It never was meant to be. It was meant to be a fundraiser because what the Mueller report does is it raises funds for the Republicans, it raises massive funds for the Democrats, and it puts you into that tribal mindset. And I get it. I truly get it. But I want you to be aware that that's just the pretty magician's assistant. The real magic, the real scam.
Give us some context. I mean, this comes at a time when Boeing could certainly use all the help that it can get, but
that's the scam. Boeing needs help. The government comes to help it. Boeing should pay the repercussions just in the same way those banks should have paid the repercussions who wrapped the bad debt, sold it as good debt, and tried to bring down the American economy. Instead, rewarded. Instead, interwoven with politics. Liza Minnelli, Stephen Mnuchin, he was in on that bullshit. He's profited from it. He's now a god. Instead of traveling around on Goldman Sachs jet or his daddy's, he's on yours and mine. We really need to defeat it. We really need to beat it. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try, no matter what, to get little Brucey Wolf to actually go for a segment on a topic that is relevant to the true American, and that is the economy. Because all of these instances, all of these situations we joke around about, it's always about having an outcome that makes you feel like your own money is someone else's. And it makes you believe you're greedy for wanting to keep your money. It is through this manipulation of societal norms and traditions that we have allowed the definition of liberal to fit the American fascist commie. Democrats aren't liberal. Republicans aren't conservative. We've lost our definitions and our principles and our fundamentals because we have allowed these Svengalis to mesmerize us into a false fear, into where we argue such a thing as a trade deficit. And that's how you win these moronic taxes of your fellow citizens. There is only value in economy. There is no deficit. Deficits are only things government do. A deficit is when it obligates to spend on a program it knows is a scam and it overspends what it brings in. That's the only deficit. When you give $3 because you want to wear a shirt like Bruce Wolf, you find that to be value. I don't need to sell $27 of American products to have an imaginary equality. Don't buy the scam. That's the important thing. Don't buy the lie. It is important that you realize these are political Svengalis that have an agenda to create fear so you give up your reason. Don't buy into it. I'm sorry. We're going to go through an election. And yes, it's going to be terrible and yada, yada, yada. But if you begrudgingly support Trump, because that's the only kind of support he should get, begrudgingly pull that lever. You want to buy the binary choice? You want to believe you vote? And you're okay, fine. But be aware. Don't give up your principles to support this. This is nonsense. This is Bernie Sanders stuff. And pay attention as time goes on. Pay attention to how the policies aren't about the principles of welfare or corporatism or favoritism. They're only about the management of them. That's to the point we are in America, where we're not arguing about welfare. We're arguing about who gets to manage it. Because the reality is when Republicans take the position of expanding family leave, they don't mind welfare. They just want it to be in a family that gets it. They're simply trying to assemble the failures of a welfare system that should have failed years ago, decades ago. That's why give us all the immigrants you can that want nothing from us but the ability to produce. That's what they want, the opportunity for success. And get rid of all the corporations that want guaranteed success. The best thing for America would be this scumbag company goes under. It should go under. And if there's any good people in there, let them form a new company. That's the flow of true capitalism, where failure leads to true change because it doesn't tolerate it. It bankrupts failure. Let's stop propping up failure. And that goes for all the farmers, too, and your phony subsidies. But listen, I got to tell you, I do have to open a business. I got a delivery going down at the Elmhurst Cigar House. I got to prepare to get ready to leave to South Florida for Liberty Real Estate Services. And here's the other thing. I need to make money, so if you're out there and you want to relocate, call me. You can reach me at 630-323-4376 or send an email to libertyrealestate99@gmail.com. I think that's the first time I've ever done that. But let's get it out there because the reality is I'm serious when I tell you I'm not taking this anymore. As a citizen of Illinois, as a lifelong Illinoisan, a first a Melrose Parker, now an Elmwood Parker, it's tragic. But I will not sit idly by while I am extorted, penalized, and impugned with socialism and corruption of Illinois. I'm checking out. And it's caused a great turmoil in my own life, but it's important. At a certain point, you got to put your beliefs where your mouth is. And that's the point I believe we're at in Illinois. So we're going to do the podcast. We're just going to do it from a different state. I'm going down this Thursday afternoon. I'll maybe back in a week. But it's going to start being more and more where I'm there coming here versus here going there. And that's what it's unfortunate. We all should do it. And that's the only way things are going to change. Illinois is already gone. We've already become comfortable with it. That's how a scumbag like Ed Burke gets reelected. I got to tell you something, kid. Those elections, not just the ones where Ed Burke got elected, but the whole thing with the socialist congressman, the Sean Casten green energy heiress fraud, and that phony nurse. She doesn't know a thermometer from a freaking thumb press. It doesn't even live here. They get elected as Congress people. And you know what I heard a conservative say? What's the big deal? Big deal is Congress people are supposed to be closest to me. Those are the ones that are supposed to be doing these tariffs, not a fiat president. They're the ones that are supposed to spend the money, not some mystical, magical budget. They're the ones who are supposed to protect me, the checks and balances. And you've got these two scumbags, not to mention all of Illinois, all these politicians. I can't live here anymore. Can't take enough showers. Got to go. And I got to go today as well. So I want to thank you very much for listening to the Liberty Hour, even though it was only about 35 minutes. I apologize, but doing the morning show, I got to be here very early, and I've got to move things around. I do have to earn a living. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it.